Welcome to School of Rock, where complex PCI meets expert opinions.
Well, I think, again, Salman and I are going to agree on a lot of things tonight. Hopefully we'll get to a few points where we disagree, so maybe we can have some good discussion. But I think the one thing we'll absolutely agree on, hands down, is you can't treat calcium without intravascular imaging. And I don't know how many times I can say the importance of that statement alone. You can't treat calcium without the help of intravascular imaging.
Agreed. No, I mean, I think in this day and age, if there is calcium, you need to figure out. I mean, you just don't have the 3D vision, no matter how many angiographic views you take, and you really need that IVUS to add that sort of third dimension. Sorry, I cut into your presentation. I don't know if you
Oh,
want.
no, you're perfectly great. And I love that comment, right? Because as interventionalists, I think sometimes we think we're really, really good at looking at an angiogram. And I can't tell you how many times I've been surprised when I see the IVUS and it looks nothing like the angiogram. So as we've already said, angiography certainly has limitations. And on the right here, you can see several different examples of calcium and how intravascular ultrasound can define the extent of that disease. So we have a lesion that has a little bit of calcium, one in the middle that's eccentric, and I would argue there might be a nodule there as well. And then the top one where it's circumferential. And we'll talk a little bit about how we might deal with all three types of this calcium as we move forward. So first of all, let me try and convince you that intravascular ultrasound absolutely improves outcomes compared to angiography alone. So we're going to look at three different randomized trials here, which looked at target vessel failure. And that means either cardiac death, target vessel myocardial infarction, or the need for revascularization. And you can see across all three of these, one with long lesions, one all comers, and one with complex lesions, that consistently across the board, that in terms of events, you do much better in the long run if you used intravascular ultrasound to treat that lesion.
So can I just make a comment here?
Absolutely.
I'm going to make two comments, one sort of half humorous and one more serious. The half humorous one is that if this slide does not convince you that IVUS is essential to your practice, then I'm not sure the rest of this webinar will help you. Because I think IVUS is so important to managing calcium that you have to use IVUS. I mean, I think that's the takeaway point. But I'm just going to sort of give you my own perspective on these three trials. In one line, what these trials tell us. IVUS-XPL told us that the longer the lesion, the more inaccurate your assessment of the angiogram is going to be. So while in a short, tight lesion, you can say that that's an 80% stenosis or a high-grade stenosis, if you don't want to use the numbers, I think you're probably going to hit you in the right ballpark. But the longer the lesion, the more inaccurate your angiographic assessment will be. So that's the first point. The second slide, what Ultimate told us is that not only does this translate to a sort of an angiographic result, but actually this is hard outcome. So this is the first time that we actually saw that you actually have, if you consistently use, so that had to do more with the practice of consistently using IVUS as opposed to using it for long or short lesions. But RENOVATE really kind of brought granularity to all of this and helped us focus by saying, okay, we know you want to use IVUS, but if you had to, where would you use IVUS? So people often say, well, where should I use IVUS and where can I get by not using IVUS? And obviously I use IVUS for pretty much everything, but it laid out the lesion subsets that benefit most from IVUS. So each of these represents a progression in our practice and appreciation and understanding of IVUS. And by the time you get to RENOVATE, I think you really get convinced at the sort of the technical and clinical benefits of using IVUS on a consistent basis. So just like anything else, one or two cases is not the standard. You have to do this consistently. Do it for 3 months, do it for 6 months, and then you start seeing the benefit of this strategy. Sorry for a long comment, but I just think these are three very important trials.
I totally agree with you. And I love the fact that they're all three on one slide like this, right? Because we're not surprised by long lesions. We're not surprised by complex lesions. But in all comers, we got the same benefit from use of intravascular ultrasound versus angiography that we did in more complex lesions. So yes, I would agree that I use IVUS on almost every single case I do. And this is really just to show that angiography really does underestimate calcium, and we've been talking about this. But I want to focus just on the mid section there, 90 to 180 degrees of calcium. And only 50% of those cases are detected by angiography. So that essentially means you could walk up to a patient, do an angiogram, pick up a quarter, flip it, and then decide if it has calcium or not, right? We're really no better as interventionalists than the flip of a coin when it comes to detecting calcium by angiography.